You know how they say Hollywood exaggerates everything in history? This is probably the movie they're talking about. Cleopatra, or Cleopatra the 1934 version, or Cecil B. DeMille's Cleopatra, just so you don't get confused with the better known version made in 1963, starring Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Cleopatra was nominated for a total of 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture of 1934. It won Best Cinematography, credit to Victor Milner. The story is a very summarized version of the historical legend of Cleopatra. I say summarized because there's certain events, especially within like the first 30 minutes of the movie, they make it seem like it takes place in a matter of days when actually the individual events shown span a few years. Hollywood, who cares? It's not like there was an internet back then to where we could just go on Wikipedia and be like, oh, so that's what actually happened. People didn't care. People just wanted to watch a movie. And it was Cecil B. DeMille directing it. Cecil B. DeMille was like my grandfather's generation's version of Steven Spielberg. Like, Steven Spielberg is a household name for my generation. It's a name you just instantly equate with movies. Cecil B. DeMille was that name back when my grandparents were alive, which would be this era. Here's the deal. Egypt is being pretty much threatened by Rome to be taken over entirely by Rome. You essentially just become a state of Rome, the Egyptian people enslaved to the Roman Empire. Cleopatra, she's the last queen. She's the last ruler of Egypt. And it starts out with her trying to basically getting into a romantic affair with Julius Caesar in order to guarantee the safety of Egypt. However, rumor spreads. There's already some disdain for Julius Caesar because a lot of people think, oh, he's going to become a king. He's already kind of a dictator, but he's going to be ultimately a king. So he gets assassinated by his Senate in a scene that features some of the worst stabbing I have ever seen on film. Now, granted, they didn't know how to stab back then. They probably didn't have those special knives that they use in horror movies nowadays to just go and make it look like there's blood coming out of the person. But hey, that's what happens. So, Mark Antony and Octavian succeed him. They're now like the two collective emperors of Rome, if you will. I don't think they called it that yet. I don't think they called it emperor. I think they just called it like leader or ruler or something like that. And Mark Antony really wants to take over Egypt. I mean, he just wants this Egyptian problem. He just wants it under control. He wants Egypt to belong to Rome. So Cleopatra arranges a meeting with Mark Antony and hopes to convince him otherwise. And this scene is where the film gets very Hollywoody. She invites him on board her ship, and her ship is probably not what it looked like in actual history. It was very done up. It was filled with golden, like the golden eagles or whatever those symbols were all around. And the inside was just decked out. Her throne was decked out. And she arranged this little performance featuring exotic foods, a bunch of jewels, dancers. It gets very, very over the top to the point where people who kind of know a little bit about history is scratching their heads saying, that probably wouldn't have happened. Hell, there's a scene where there's like a group of girls that are dressed up like cheetahs. I'm not making this up. They're like dressed up in cheetah spotted hair stuff, and they're like on leash. And then there's like a guy that has all of them on leash, and then he releases them, and then they're like acting like cats. And the only reason they're doing this is just for Mark Antony's amusement. The entire point they're trying to make in this very over-the-top display of extravagance is that what Cleopatra actually did was to convince Mark Antony to leave Egypt alone, to protect Egypt, keep Egypt, sovereign and under Cleopatra's control. This eventually turns into an affair between Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Word of this gets out. Octavian isn't happy and rallies Rome to declare war against Egypt, leading into this montage of fighting. It's literally a montage because it's like 1 second of one shot and then it jumps cuts to another second of one shot. It like jump cuts and jump cuts and jump cuts to the point where you can make a joke that you're about to have a seizure watching this. And what's even weirder is that sometimes the camera quality varied. Sometimes one moment looked like it was a scene that was actually shot on the studio set with the Roman soldiers gathering up, and other times it would show Roman soldiers from afar riding on chariots, and the film quality would look like it was made a decade earlier, back in the silent era. What shocked me about this montage was some of the scenes were very violent. There were some scenes that showed bodies bloodied up. It showed a couple of people getting stabbed by harpoons. And one thing that came to mind was that during this time period, this was when the Haze Code was just getting passed. This was the code that movie studios would eventually use for the next couple of decades to censor themselves, to make the conservative Christians / conservative parents happy to where they could just take their kids to any movie, ultimately sacrificing true creativity of the cinema for quite some time, and giving birth to the creativity of Quentin Tarantino, for that matter. So the Haze Code was just getting passed. I guess Cecil B. DeMille just found a way to sneak this through before any movie studios were going to take this seriously. Like, this film just got passed. A couple of the outfits that Cleopatra was wearing were scantily clad. So you could tell this is definitely before Paramount really started using the Haze Code. But anyway, there's this battle montage, and it's using music from, I think, Farewell to Arms. At least it sounded very similar to the music used in Farewell to Arms, as the soldiers were fighting each other, and Mark Antony is leading the charge against the Roman soldiers. And I'm just going to stop there, because if I say any more of what happens, I'm going to spoil the movie. And I don't really want to spoil this movie for you, because I think you should see it for yourself. It is definitely a fine example of Golden Age Hollywood working at its true potential, its true production power. And maybe it was because of the National Recovery Act. In the beginning of the movie, there was the National Recovery Act symbol. The National Recovery Act was a program under FDR's The New Deal to try to get people working again, to stimulate the economy. And they probably used a bunch of people that needed work to build these sets. There was a lot of sets that needed building, and probably a bunch of them were also used as extras on the film set, because they had a lot of extras for this film, let me tell you right there. Did I enjoy this film? Yes. Is it historically accurate? No. It's very summarized. It is very over the top. It's not realist. It's romanticized version of history, as Hollywood could only do it. But it's enjoyable because it is so of its time that you would watch it just to watch. This is the quintessential movie you could watch from the 1930s if you want to look at it from a technical standpoint. That's why I plan to give this movie 3 stars. So if you run into Cleopatra and you realize it's not the Elizabeth Taylor version, don't you fret, it's still enjoyable. Go watch it. Have fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.